Hi, we're going to do something a little bit different today. Rather than talking about the science or the psychology of hormones, we're going to talk about the art of hormones. And the reason I want to do that is because almost from the very beginning of working with women with PCOS, I noticed that there's something that really set them apart from anybody else I know. And I mean that in the very best of ways, because what I notice is that women with PCOS tend to be much more creative and sensitive in a way that they notice things more. They need more color expression in their lives than someone who is happy being an accountant. And if you're an accountant and you're hearing this, that's not an insult. I'm just trying to make an observation here. But it got to a point a few years ago where when anybody called me and asked me for a consultation, one of my very first questions was, do you have a creative side? And almost invariably when I ask that question, I get kind of a shocked silence on the other end of the phone, and the person says, well, yes, but how did you know that? And I had just explained to them that I just have noticed in working with PCOS that the majority of women who have this syndrome tend to be creative people. So I'm guessing that there's something about a creative brain that operates a little bit differently. Maybe it works a little bit harder. I know I have that kind of a brain, and I just had this discussion with a friend the other day. It doesn't work on a 9-to-5 schedule. I oftentimes will wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, or will start to feel creative just before I'm trying to go to bed. And that can make it hard to exercise self-care. But the thing about that kind of a brain that I'm learning is that even though it's the kind that's hardest to offer self-care to, it can be the most important one, because when you don't take care of your creative brain, you can lose your competitive edge. And so all of the things that we talk about, if you're a musician or an artist or an actress or any kind of, doing anything expressive, that should be your number one cue to you that you need to do everything that you can possible to take care of your most important, most valuable asset. And that means watching your sleep hygiene, eating well, and so forth. The other thing that seems to happen a lot with women who have PCOS who are creative is that for whatever reason, we all kind of know that people who work in the arts have to work a lot harder to make a living for themselves. And so oftentimes out of the demands of the economic realities, they give up whatever it is that they love to do artistically and creatively. And I really truly believe that if you have an artistic soul and that soul is put on the back burner on behalf of finances, it's almost like dying a little bit on the inside. And I wonder sometimes how many of you might not be sick because you have not prioritized your need to create. Long time ago, I did a little bit of studying about different types of personalities, and there are about 7 of them. And each one learns and communicates in a different way. And I think that the population that we work with here at Insist is probably not a logical, mathematical population. And what can be really stressful if you're more of an artistic, creative, visual, or even a spatial person like an architect, is that when you're thrown into the throes of an illness that practically always requires you to think and express yourself in mathematical terms, whether it be grams of carbohydrate or how many calories, or you're looking at basal body temperature. I mean, it's all about numbers, which are really not relevant to someone who's a creative person. It piles on the stress. So I don't know if you notice over the years, but I try really hard to present as much of what we do visually as possible, because I know that that is what our audience best relates to. When I do have to write, because blogging is one of our more common means of communication, I do try and provide examples that are visual, and I routinely get back notes. Oh, when you put that picture up of the brain that was rusting out, that really got to me, or thank you for putting that recipe up there with the picture. So it totally is reinforcing that you all are visual people. The reason I wanted to bring it up here is because if you're one of those people who has sacrificed your creative side for whatever reason, and you've given up your scrapbooking, or you've given up your painting, or you're so locked into the computer reading articles that are meaningless to you, I would like to challenge you to put at least 15 minutes to start with of creative time in every single day. It could be scrapbooking, it could be journaling, it could be taking pictures. One of my favorite things to do is to just take the iPad out and give myself a photography challenge for 10 or 15 minutes and see if I can take my brain off of the routines of the day for just a few minutes. And I always come back feeling better. Once you get used to it, then you may want to bump that challenge up. And I really think that exercising the creative part of your brain for your overall total wellness, because it is the way that you're going to express yourself and keep your feelings from bottling up, is as important as exercising your muscles to maintain your muscle mass. So what I'd love to hear, I'd love from all of you, is some feedback on this and what kind of things that you've committed to doing to start letting your creative brain be part of your healing process and part of your total wellness. And I would love to hear those suggestions, because there are other people out there who need to hear them from you too. So please respond to this blog or send me an email, and we can continue this conversation here and on our Facebook page. And just keep in mind that you have a creative brain, and if you ignore it, you're probably not going to be as healthy as you could be. And we want to get all of our creative people back in action, because without you, this world would be pretty black and white and two-dimensional. Take care. See you soon.